Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick and welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She is the woman seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her Conversations will introduce you to talented women who will speak to your spirituality, sensuality, soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. This week's guest on Her Conversations is speaker, author and lifestyle transformation coach Georgia Woodbine. She's a great example of someone who, after working in many traditional industries, has then created a thriving business by identifying her most valuable skills and also provides a service to help elevate others to do the same. Her books all stem from personal experience, and now as an author of multiple titles, she teaches others how they too can finally get that book written in 30 days. In the interview, you'll find out why people struggle to get their books completed and also plenty of tips on how to get the momentum started. So as always, I begin each of the conversations by asking my guest, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel at your most HER?
I feel when I'm most HER when I am operating in my highest potential. And that's when I am using my gifts, my talents, my natural abilities, my skill sets that I've learned over the years. And it's at that very moment when my passion comes to life. And it's when I'm speaking, when I'm doing public speaking, when I'm writing, when I'm teaching, when I'm leading, when I'm inspiring and motivating others to live by the power of intention.
And can you tell me a bit more about you in terms of your life's work, what you're doing now? How did you get to discover your gifts, and then how did you lean into the gifts and actually turn them into your life's work and your service?
Well, I think, like me, there are so many people out there that struggle with different things in life. And it could be with their finances, with their personal relationships, with their job, career, life's work. And that's really what inspired me to start my own business and figure out what I wanted to do. It all began on my journey to self-awareness. And there was something in me that knew I want more for my life. And I think a lot of people have that moment when they say, you know what? I want more. I want more. I want to feel like I have some purpose in my life. And I believe when we all go through this stage where we want more fulfillment and more purpose, when you ask yourself why, or why am I here, or what I should be doing, that's really the beginning of your path to self-awareness. That's the beginning of your path to purpose. And that's really where it started for me, to really get to a place where I figured out what I like to do, what I love to do, what I'm good at, and how to actually turn my passion into something that's profitable.
Did you work in other industries or aspects before you came to this work?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I worked at Pepsi. I worked at pharmaceutical companies. I worked at the Apollo Theater. I worked at music companies, Def Jam. I worked at Black Enterprise magazine. So I had various levels of different types of industry that's actually poured into my skill set and things that I can do to actually that I apply to my own personal business now. And, I believe everybody needs the experience, because you need to know what successful people are doing. You can say, oh, I want to start my business, I want to do this, but you really do need to know how to do certain things and get the experience to actually figure out, well, okay, this is what I can do. So yeah, I've worked for many different industries, but I always knew there was something more. And that it factor, knowing that there was something else in me that I had to do. And especially when I worked in entertainment, being around entertainment is you know, what inspired me to write my first book, which was how to make big bucks without selling your soul. And that had inspired me because I saw so many people selling their soul to get to where they wanted. And I said, well, what can I do without having to put myself in a really bad position? Like, what can I do with my life? What can I do to be able to enjoy my life, make my life's works profitable? And that's what really opened my eyes. It was like the sand was removed from my eyes, and I said, wow, I have the ability to write. Well, I need to figure out how can I apply this to something. And that's when I started writing books. So I believe that all of our gifts are tied to something that we can do. It's just a matter of getting that clarity to figure out how to connect those dots in your life. And that's how I was able to become successful in what I do and make what I do profitable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how do you think you found your clarity? Did you have assistance? Did you have a coach?
Honestly, most of my clarity came from my spiritual awareness, and that came through prayer and meditation. That's where most of, I would say probably 99.9 or even 100% of where my insight came from, because it was during that time that I was able to get the wisdom I needed to be more clear on the choices that I'm making. I think in life, there are times when you're like, should I really do that? Or should I really start that? Or should I really end this? Or should I begin that? And sometimes it can become a struggle when you're trying to make a change in your life and you're really not sure on what the outcome is going to be. But I can tell you this, you're never going to know what the outcome is going to be, so you might as well go ahead and try it. And, it just takes that courage to say, you know what, I don't know how this is going to end up. I don't know what's going to come out of this, but I believe in it. And I believe when you believe in something and you have that conviction. And as you asked me, what was it that helped me to really get the clarity? Prayer and meditation. Meditation helped me to become in tune and in balance with myself, and what were the things or the habits or the things that I was doing that I needed to change? What were some of the circle of people that I needed to eliminate? What are some of the things that I needed to start doing with my time? How I should be managing my time, who I should be spending my time with. And I think once you start to do that, then you can figure out, okay, these are the steps that I need to take forward to go forward in my life. And sometimes when you're consumed by relationships or your job situation or anything in your life that really consumes most of your time, or you're trying to figure out, why is it that it feels like I'm putting so much energy into this one thing and it's not working, is to redirect that energy to something that's more of not just going to help you, but that's going to help other people. And I think the gold mine in life is to really discover how to solve a problem for yourself. And then once you have solved that problem for yourself, to go ahead and share with others on how they can solve their problems.
And what was the problem that you felt that you solved in yourself?
The problem, well, there were so many. I mean, I think that, yeah, because I think we all have issues that we struggle with. We all have issues from childhood. We have issues from relationships, past relationships, and really getting to a place. One of the things that I solved was realizing my value and having that self-love. Self-love is the key, really. Loving yourself and appreciating who you are and who you're born to be, and not comparing yourself to other people and looking at what others are doing and how they're doing it, but really coming to that awareness where I love me. I love the person that God created me to be, and I'm going to be the best me possible. So getting to that place saying, okay, this is who I am. This is how I was made. These are the things that I was born to do, that I've been given the gifts from birth to do, and tapping into those gifts and realizing, the power of our gifts. I think all of us have gifts. I always refer to it like, you think about superpowers and you think about Wonder Woman and Batman and Spider-Man and all these different superheroes. And at some point before they were able to use their powers, they have that fear because they don't really know how to really use those powers. And we all have superpowers. And when I think about that, and even how when Wonder Woman figured out she had the power to move things and to lift things and to have this supernatural power that was so miraculous that allowed her to do things that she never thought she had the natural ability to do. That's how I think about us as individuals, like getting to a place where we understand what our powers are and tapping into those powers and being able to really utilize those powers.
Mm. And especially in a world where it's trying to keep us the same, it's that's one that we're all waking up to. But you feel it. I know, talking from experience as well, when I've been doing work and not doing anything of any deep worth to myself, then I really feel you people say like you've lost your soul or you've sold your soul. You can feel something and you die, and you do actually literally feel it dying within yourself as well. Do you ever coach other people with kind of recognizing their worth?
Absolutely. I do life coaching, and I do life coaching dealing with personal development and professional development. And that's one of the questions that I always ask people. Who are you? Who are you? And a lot of times we don't know who we are because no one has ever really helped to expose us to going deeper within and digging deeper within. Sometimes it takes life situations or crisis or disappointments or setbacks or challenges to kind of push us up against the wall to say, you know what, I need to change something in my life. And that's usually when the light bulb goes off, where people say, you know what, I need a change. And so, people always ask, well, what separates what I do, which is life coaching, from someone that's a therapist? And, therapists always focus on, well, what happened in your past, or what was it that happened that makes you the way you are today? And I, as a life coach, more focus on where are you right now, your present moment, not fretting about what happened in your past or worrying about what's going to happen in your future, but worrying about right now, where are you right now, and how can you move forward, and how can you take steps to move forward and go to the next level. And that's what I do as a life coach. It's more about meeting people where they are, identifying their strengths, figuring out how they can tap into a higher part of themselves where they can actually live a happier lifestyle and tap into something that gives them that joy, where they feel that sense of fulfillment. Because I do think at times people do look for fulfillment through other things, whether it's being with a man or a woman, or whether it's having all the money you want in the world, or thinking you have that job title that's going to make you visible, or whatever it is, and sometimes it's really more about that thing that you were meant to do, that gives you that sense of fulfillment, that gives you that sense of completion, where it's like you're comfortable in your skin, you know who you are, you know why you were created, you feel good about who you are, and even if people don't understand it, you don't let that deter you, because you already know that it's bigger than you.
And that's probably the hardest part, actually, as well, when especially when you're making the transition from one thing, like if you've come from conventional work situation, and then you're stepping away, and like you mentioned about looking at who your circle is and having the right people around you,
right?
Especially in the early days, most people are not going to understand what it is that you're doing until they see the money coming in. They probably don't even realize that.
They're like, show me the money. Yeah. But you know what, though? What people don't realize is that even when you think about Steve Jobs, Apple, and iPhones, and when you look around today and you see so many millions and millions and millions and millions of people that cannot take their eye off of the iPhone, that first started with a vision. that didn't just happen overnight. It took years for him to build that vision into a plan, and trials and errors. And that's what success is about. It's about trials and errors. It's about starting and stopping and starting again. It's about innovation. It's about recreating. It's about, figuring it out. It doesn't happen 1, 2, 3. And a lot of times people will see such people that are successful, even when people look at, like entertainers like Beyonce, and they see her level of success. But this is something that she has been working on from childhood. So that's what people don't understand. For seeds to grow, you got to pour into it. It doesn't just manifest without the work. And most people don't realize that, it is going to take work. It's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of focus. And the manifestation, trust me, it's going to happen. The manifestation will happen as long as you believe it. It will happen.
When did you start meditation? What's your practice like?
I started meditation over 10 years ago. And I think when I started, I was at a very low point in my life, meaning I was coming out of a relationship. I wouldn't say it was a bad relationship, but it was a relationship where I thought I was going to marry this person. And it was weird because we were never on the same path at the same time. Sometimes you're in a relationship and one person has more feelings than the other person, and you sometimes never quite feel the same at the same time. And that was a transition for me where I had to let go. And for even after we broke up, years after, I was still emotionally tied to this person. Even though they moved on, they had a new relationship, they were going on with their life. And even though I said I was disconnected, I really wasn't disconnected because my emotion was still tied to the person. So it was so hard for me to move on to get a new relationship because my emotions were still with this person. And that's what people don't realize. It's like you have to let go. And I made a vow to myself. I made a commitment to myself one day, and I said, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to move on. And once I did that, the meditation became a regular practice for me. I started doing it 5 minutes a day, then 10 minutes a day, then 20 minutes, then 30 minutes, then 60 minutes. And then I started doing it once a day, and I started doing twice a day. And I just started to see myself evolve. I started to see a new me. I started to see a me that I didn't know was there. I started to see a more powerful person that I didn't realize could be. You know what I mean? Because when I was young, do you think I ever imagined being a public speaker? I always had a fear of speaking. That was one of my biggest fears, was talking in front of people. I never liked to do that. And I believe that when you start to meditate, you confront your fears. And when you can confront your fears, it can allow you to delve into parts of yourself where you have strength. And you can pull that strength, and then you can start to get the realization of, I call it self-actualization. It's when you get to a place where you start to discover yourself. And when you can discover yourself and realize that you have all these gifts and talents and abilities in you, then you start to say, wow, okay, even though I lost that relationship, there's more to this life. There's more to life than just this one relationship. There's more to life than, just this job. There's more to life than just this situation. So you start to see that it's much bigger than that little small vision that you used to have. You start to get clarity about life, about what's important, and you just start to evolve on a whole new level. So that's what meditation did for me, to allow me to do what I do today.
Which is fantastic. And so we're talking about your newest book, which is called Total BS, which I think is brilliant. Talk about your book.
Total BS came about when I remember I had put on some weight. And not only that, I was going through some health issues. I had really bad fibroids. And I remember one day I was going to the city to meet some friends at some type of networking event. And I remember I passed out. I just fainted. I fainted. And then when I woke up, I was in the hospital. And then they told me, I was dehydrated. that I had to get these blood infusions because my fibroids was pulling, and I had to do this, so that was almost like a pacifier for the problem. And then they told me I had to have surgery, and I kept putting it off, saying, you know what, I could deal with this, because I used to have really bad abdominal pains from the fibroids every time I had my cycle. So I kept putting it off, and I'm like, it's not that bad. But then after that moment happened when I passed out, I started to take it more seriously. And it was a health issue I had to deal with and I had to confront. And one of the things I talk about in my book, Total BS, is to become your own best health advocate. Because if you don't take care of you, nobody else will. And I said, you know what? Going through that journey, I wanted to write about that and just my whole health journey on how I started to become healthier. I started eating healthier. I lost weight, not because the fact that I just thought I was overweight, but I just wanted to feel healthier. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel more energized. I wanted to feel better about, the way I look when I put my clothes on. I just wanted to feel better. So I decided to do this 90-day challenge with my son at the time. And I said, you know what, I'm going to write this book called Total BS. And people got a kick out of the title because everybody thinks Total BS means something else, but it stands for body and soul. Mm-hmm. And so we both made a commitment to do this 90-day challenge. And, I was able to lose a lot of weight and also write about it while I was doing it. Now, that was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done as far as writing, because I've written several books, but I've never actually did a challenge while I was writing about it. So I wrote about it while I was going through the challenge. And it was something that I said I wanted to stretch myself to do. And sometimes I think when you stretch yourself, you start to see how strong you are. You're like, wow, I could really do this. Like something you think you could never possibly do, you start to realize that you do have the ability to do it. And Total BS is really about aligning mind, body, and soul so that you can live a happier and healthier lifestyle. I share my tips on meditation. I talk about how to align the three, and also how to get to a place where you can feel good, not just about what you do or how you look, but how to feel good about life, about living, about appreciating the value of life, and how to not let material things overwhelm you or overtake you to the point where you feel depressed or like you don't have enough, or you don't, something's missing. Because I think what happens with social media, a lot of times people are watching other people, and then when they do that, it's making them feel bad about themselves, whether they want to believe it or not. It's happening. If they don't have the things that they want, it can make them feel like something's missing. So my whole thing is to not compare yourself to other people, because there was something my mom used to always tell me when I was a little girl. And she used to always say, don't watch what people have because you don't know what they did to get it.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you know what I'm saying? You don't know what you see is real, because that's what it is. It's just it's a platform. So people are going to make it look like something, but you don't really know what's going on behind the closed doors. So you can't worry about that. You can't spend time worrying about what everybody else is doing. You got to spend more time worrying about what you need to do for yourself. And that's what really inspired me to write that book, Total BS, because I think there's so many people out there that's looking for that something. Yeah. That something, that thing that's going to make you feel good, that thing that's going to make you feel like you have a purpose, that thing that's going to make you feel like excited about or have a zest for life about. And that's what I do. I am what you call a change agent. My mission in life is to not only inspire and motivate others, but to help them change the way they think, change their mindset, so that they can start seeing different results in their life.
Did you ever remember the Bow Wow challenge that happened about last year or so on Instagram?
Well, I don't know, maybe. Tell me a little bit about that. What happened with the Bow Wow challenge?
The basic, because do you know, what's his name? Little Bow Wow is a rapper, right? Yeah. So, and that came from, and it was all about him going on Instagram and kind of stunting on Instagram that he was doing one thing when it turned out he was doing another.
Oh, yes, with the plane, plane. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
It's just, it was one of those things that was just like hilariously funny, because then it became a hashtag, and then other people started to do it, and they got really inventive, because a lot of the time with images, it's all about depth of perception.
Right.
So you can put something in front of like a picture and pretend that, well, kind of what he did really was like, I just pulled a picture off Google and pretended that he was getting on his private jet, and then someone took a picture of him on you know, a public,
on the plane, right?
A public plane. It's
right.
Just, yeah, and it just cropped in my mind when you're saying you don't know what you're looking at when you're looking at Instagram or things. Instagram in particular, you know, because
right.
You've got the apps to make something look completely like it isn't. And yet, right. You know, most people still get fooled by the image, especially right. If you're at a point where you're just thinking there's nothing in your life, and you're scrolling and right. everyone looks like they're having just a much better time than you are.
Right.
And you know, you're talking about purpose and people finding their purpose. With your clients, how do you help them see their purpose? Do they have an inkling of it, or are they thinking they've got to follow something, or that it has to be grand or big, or what's the most common thing that you hear?
Well, some of the most common things I hear is like, I want to do this, but I don't know how. I think it's the how factor. I think people do get to a point, especially when they come to someone like me who's a life coach, to say, you know what, I need help. I need guidance. I need direction. It's more of, they may know some things that they want to do, but they just haven't really figured out a way to make it either profitable, mm-hmm. or they haven't figured out a way to tap into it where they can, where it can make sense. So it's like this. Sometimes we have so many different gifts, right? And sometimes I'll use myself for an example. Okay, so writing happens to be one of my gifts. Speaking is another gift. Communication is another gift that I have. So figuring out all the different gifts that I have and how to tie it together to do what I love and to also make it profitable. So the writing piece, that was something that I always did before I even wrote books. I never knew I'd become a writer, but it was something that I always had the gift to do, because even when I was working in entertainment, I was writing for other people. So that was one of the things that I realized, oh, wow, I have this gift, you know, maybe I should use it to write a book, to tie into something that I love to do. The other piece, talking to people was something that was also a natural ability of mine. When I used to, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I used to manage artists in the entertainment business. Mm-hmm. I used to manage artists and producers. And one of the things that I always found myself doing was coaching them. You know what I mean? Like, not only coaching them to make sure that they got into the studio, but just coaching them to make sure that they were making the right decisions, or that they were doing what they're supposed to do when they needed to do it, and kind of being a reinforcer. You know what I mean? And so I was already doing that. And so that's what led to the life coaching. So what I do with my clients, I get them on the path to seeing all the things that I do, like different diagrams and charts, and I have different questions that I ask them to really figure out first what they want. Because you can't approach something if you don't first know what you want. You have to know what you want first. That's really the first step. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you see yourself doing? And when you work from that point, then it's almost like you're working backwards, because you first have to know what is it that you see yourself doing? What is it that you want to do? And then once you get that piece, then the other stuff you can add to it. So that's what I share with my clients on how to connect the dots in their life, how to practice goal setting, which is a big piece, how to practice time management, how to take action, which I think is one of the biggest things that really prevents people from pursuing the things that they want to do, because they talk about it, but they don't take the action. Mm. So a lot of these things is, what I share with my clients to get them on that path to really, figuring out what they want to do and then taking the steps to make it happen.
Mm. And what do you find is the biggest obstacle or the most common obstacle to why people talk and then just don't take the action?
Procrastination.
Yeah.
Procrastination. That's a big piece. Procrastination, or, like I said, like, I'm not going to use the word lazy, but I'll use procrastination. People put things off. They just figure, I can do it. And I'll give another example. I was teaching a class at the Learning Annex called How to Write a Book in 30 Days or Less. And I'm doing it in a webinar form now, so people can log in by webinar to see my class. But one of the students in my class said to me, "You know what, Miss Woodbine, I have been writing my book for 15 years. And I said, "Really?" And I said to him, "Okay, so why is it taking so long for you to get this book out?" He goes, "Well, I just have so much going on in my life, and I just don't have enough time, and time. And I said, "Listen, if this is something you want to do, you have to make time for it. That's the bottom. That's the bottom line. If it's something you want to do, you got to make time for it." I mean, and just figuring out how to break down your time to accomplish the things you want. And, people make time for things they want to make time for. Let's face it, you can put your book off, and if someone invites you to go hang out one night, you have time to do that. So, I mean, it's all really what's important to you. You have to start setting a standard for what you want in your life, what's important to you, and having the discipline. Discipline, I think, is a big thing that people lack. I should say more discipline than procrastination, because I think discipline is a stronger word. People lack discipline. And discipline is really what prevents you from living your best life, really.
Yeah. Where do you think that's from? Do you think it's because most of us are just kind of conditioned by the bell, pretty much, the school and the work bell, that we're not able to find the self-discipline? Because you can't say people aren't disciplined, because most people will get in the shower and brush their teeth and eat every day, which is a discipline in itself. So it's just what can instill discipline? How can somebody start to build a discipline within themselves? Because it's like anything else, it's a habit to build.
It's a habit. Absolutely, it's a habit. You're right. Like you said, it's easy for people to do. Like you said, get up in the morning, brush their teeth, go about their day, get in their car. And like you said, we are deliberate creators. Everything that we do is a deliberate thought. So if we're thinking about it, we're doing it, really. Everything that we think about. When you think about in the morning, before you go out the house, what you're going to wear, it's something we think about. So once we understand that we are deliberate creators every day, at every moment, then we can start to expand our horizons and say, wow, if I could create this, then I can create that. If I can create these small things, then I can finish my book. Then I can start that business, or I can, do this or that, or whatever it is that you want to do. It's just really getting to the point where you have that conviction and you say, yes, I can do this. I can do this. And like you said, we're already disciplined, but it's what we choose to use discipline with. It's really a choice. We have freedom of choice. We have freedom. When you really think about it, we have so many choices to make. We can decide who we want to spend time with. We can decide where we want to go. We can decide what we want to put on. We can decide. I mean, there's so many. So if we have so many choices and freedom to make those choices, why is it so hard to make that big life-changing decision? If we're already making decisions about other things, why is it so hard to make this one decision? And I think that once we start, like I said, filtering out the things we don't want, because you have to know what you don't want before you know what you do want. So if you say to yourself, I don't want to feel stressed every day when I go to work. I don't want to feel like my time is not my own. I don't want to feel like someone's stealing my time. Or, okay, so you know what you don't want. So What do you have to do to get what you do want? So stop focusing so much on the don'ts and focus on the do's. These are the things that I need to do to change my situation. You may be in a situation right now. That doesn't mean you're going to stay in a situation, but you have to have a plan. What is your action plan to get out of that situation? So the first step is to stop complaining about it and make a plan. Make a life plan. Make a mission statement for your life. Make a goal. You set goals for yourself. Figure out what is it that you want to do, and that's what people have to do if they want to see change.
Yeah. And maybe for some people, I don't know, maybe it's not, maybe they don't have the drive for one reason or another. Maybe they don't think they can do it. And it's easy to be distracted because this world is so distracting right now. And like, you've got technology, television, and then all of these great things to do when you step out of the door that, you know, like you're talking about, you can go and see Beyonce and just think, oh, I'll never get there. But like you said, she started when she was a child, you know, and we've just got to, for some people, I think, especially adults, it's always harder for them to start again and be humble. Because I used to teach piano, and the hardest people to teach were adults. Mm-hmm. Because they just, and adult guys as well, I hate to generalize, but it's true. Mm-hmm. It was because they just hated the fact that they were having to start again and just kind of learn something that I was teaching then 4 and 5 year olds at the same time. And the 4 and 5 year olds had a clearer mind and a greater thirst for doing it. So they were overtaking it. But it's, I don't know, maybe it's a lot of people not wanting to be a beginner again and being humble.
Mm-hmm. Well, pride is something that can steal your joy. I mean, pride will take everything from you, because if you have the pride that you don't want to start over, then you don't know what you're missing out on because you never started it, because your pride is keeping you in this lifestyle when you could really be experiencing this lifestyle. But because your pride, you're saying, I don't want to start over. Listen, sometimes we do have to start over. I had to start over. You know what I mean? Like, there were situations in my life where I lost everything and I had to start over. It's a part of life. It's a part of living. You know, you keep living long enough, you're going to have to start over with something. You're going to have to start over in a relationship. You're going to have to start over with a job. You're going to have to start over with something. Something in your life is going to change. That's what change is. It's evolving. And there's always, they say the one thing in life that's constant is change. So to run from it and to say, you know what, I don't want to go and do this again, you're only holding yourself back, because you don't really know what's on the other side until you start to really, you know, tap into it. And then you can discover, oh my gosh, I've been missing out on all this wonderful joy and happiness and peace and fulfillment and abundance and overflow and manifestation and miracles, and because of my pride. So it's really a decision.
Yeah. And you talk about, because you've written so many books and now also you run workshops and webinars relating to the books, and you've got a course of write a book in 30 days. Writing a book always seems like this kind of grand labor, something that has to take so long. How do you manage to convince and then teach people and show them that it's possible to create a book in 30 days? How are you chunking it down for them?
Well, with the webinar, I break it down based on, first of all, telling your story. I think when you're doing something you love, it doesn't seem like labor. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to write a book, don't do it because you're thinking it's going to bring money, or don't do it for the wrong reasons. If you have a story to tell or something you feel like you want to share with others, that's what's going to keep you grounded to get this project finished. Yeah. It's more about what is your labor of love, and what is it that you want to share with other people. And that's one of the things I talk about in the class, like figuring out what are you going to talk about in your book? Who are you trying to target? You know, we should always have a target market. Sometimes people say, oh, everybody's my target market. And everybody's not your target market because everybody doesn't want to hear what you have to say. You know what I mean? You have to laser in on who you feel will want what you have. So figuring out what your niche market is, what you want to talk about, who you're going to market it to. Because, you know, people think that the hardest part is writing the book. And to be honest with you, I'm a writer and I've written several books, but writing the book is the easy part. It's marketing the book that's the real animal. You know, you have to figure out who's going to buy it. Because, yeah, say you get this book and you write this book and it's all done. What are you going to do after you're finished with it? Are you going to have boxes of books in your home, in the garage? Or are you going to get into people's hands? So really understanding that whole concept before you even start writing the book, and really building the brand of what you're doing before you even write the book. That's what I would say. Build your brand before you build the products, because once you have something that people are interested in, or once somebody was interested in what you have to say or your brand or whatever it is, they're going to buy whatever you have. Yeah. Whether it's a book or audio CD or a song, or it doesn't matter what it is. But figuring out, I would say before you even start writing a book, maybe do a blog. You know what I mean? Because then you can start to practice your writing. Then you can build your audience at the same time. Mm-hmm. So before you start writing that book, you want to think about your audience. One of the things I talk about is thinking about your chapters, or the chapters you're going to write about, or, you know, what the book is going to consist of. Is it going to be a novel? Is it going to be a self-help book? Is it going to be a biography about your life? Like, what is it going to be about? And one of the things that I really share in my webinar is really how to, the time management piece. Because that's the animal, right? Like trying to figure out how to have time to finish your book. And this is how I normally break it down. So if you think about one day, how many hours in a day? 24, right?
Yeah.
So we have 24 hours in a day, and we have what? 168 hours in a week. So that's a lot of hours, okay? Most people don't look at it that way because they don't break it down that way. So if we have 168 hours in a week, what are we spending those 168 hours doing? So let me break it down. We may have 40 hours for work, depending on what work you do, right? That leaves 128 hours. Now they say a person should have what, 8 hours of sleep a day? And let's break that down. That may be 40 to 45 hours, but most people don't get 8 hours sleep, do they? I know I only need 5.
Yeah. I was when you said 8, so I'm like, wow, okay.
I mean, me personally, I only need 5 and I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
So then you're left with 83 hours. Let's say, okay, you minus 30 hours for what? Exercise and commuting, family, personal care, whatever that is, right? Then you're left with 53 hours. Then, okay, how much time does it take you to eat in a week? So I'm doing all this based on a 7-day. Doesn't take you long. Some people eat fast. Some people take a longer time to eat, right? So let's say 9 hours for the week, right? That leaves you with 44 hours. So then let's take out another 15 hours for like miscellaneous activities, food shopping, watching TV, radio, TV, whatever. So that leaves like 29 hours. So I just broke down 168 hours for the week. And after you did all those things, you still have 29 hours left. So what can you use with those 29 hours? You can write your book with that 29 hours a week that you have. So it's really about looking at your time and how to figure out, you know, what's eating up your time, where you're losing time, and what you're trying to achieve with your time. And once you're able to do that, then you can get on that path to saying, okay, I want to write this book. And like I said, the webinar, I talk about like many things, like how to come up with chapter titles, how to, different techniques for writing, you know, choosing a winning title, setting goals and deadlines, how to tap into your passion. Really, that's really the big piece, the passion, because the passion is what's going to make you want to stay motivated to write. How to break out a writer's block, and how to use your gifts and talents, and then to really apply all of those things to getting that done. Because I think, you know, the old school way of writing is, you know, you could even take a recorder. Some people might say, oh, I don't know how to write. Oh, it's too much time. I don't know how to use a computer. most people do not use a computer, but for those of you that don't, you could use a recorder. You can talk into something. You can, have someone else type it for you. I mean, whatever form works for you, record it, speak into a microphone, speak it out, dictate it. They have different softwares now where you could actually dictate and it'll type it out for you. So figure out what works for you, basically. Those are just some of the tips I share with the how to write a book in 30 days or less. Because most people think, oh my gosh, I can't even write a book in like a year. So how can I write it in 30 days? Well, you can. And it all depends on what type of book you want to write. Is it a children's book? Is it a self-help book? Is it a tips book? Is it a poetry book? There's a wider range of types of books. You just first have to figure out what type of book it is. You can write it in 30 days if you want. And I show you how. But you got to make sure you attend that webinar.
You can tell us all about that as well. And are you showing people to self-publish or with a view to kind of finding a publisher? Which way did you do it?
I probably might do a separate webinar for that because it's so much information that I think it's overwhelming for people to kind of talk about how to write a book and then to go into publishing. Because it's like, oh my gosh, I got to do all of that work. You know what? I don't want to write a book anymore. So I like to do things in baby stages because people's attention span is very short. Mm-hmm. And I give it to them in stages and doses. You know what I mean? So I mean, depending on, I know I've been getting an overwhelming interest on people that want to write a book. So that's what I'm focusing on. And then I may even later on do something on how to self-publish because that's how I've done all my books. And, I was able to get them into Barnes and Nobles and, I could share like some of the things that I did to get my books out there and to make them sell and what I did and all that. So I think that would definitely be like a separate seminar on how to publish your book.
Yeah, no, it's great. There's more and more of us out here writing our book taking way too long, so I'm inspired by your 30-day program for sure. This is about time. It's about time. So let me ask you some questions. So the first one I want to ask you is, what's the best piece of advice a woman's ever given to you?
I would have to say my mom, because my mom happens to be my role model, and she's always told me, be yourself, be who you are and love who you are, and don't try to be anyone else because you can only be the person that God created you to be. And I'm so glad that she left me with that growing up, because even though, we go through life, and even as a teenager, a lot of young women out here today, especially with social media, they start to, have doubts about their identity, and who they are. And the fact that I had my mom to instill that in me at a young age, even when times when I couldn't relate to it because of whatever I was going through, I was able to always go back to that. So my mom definitely is the person that really helped me to really focus on my strengths and not, focus too much on my weaknesses, but try to laser more in on my strengths.
That's great. And who would you say as a female represents higher energetic resonance?
My mom again. I just have to say my mom, because my mom, oh my gosh, she's just such a wonderful woman. My mom has 7 children, and she has somehow found a way to love us all equally and give us all the same attention equally. And to me, just to watch her and how she interacts with us, and I mean, she's 7 of us, now we have like 13 grandchildren and like 8 great grandchildren. And the way that she's able to spread her love all around is what inspires me. That she gives away so much of herself to so much people, and that she's able to still stand. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when you share parts of yourself, you kind of feel like it's like sucking the life out of you. But she's able to do it, with all of her children. And you can only imagine, I mean, when you have one child, you think like, oh my gosh, it's like so much to raise a child. But think about raising 7 children, and 7 children with 7 different issues and life issues and situations and circumstances and things that happen. And you're constantly being the one called on that phone, mom, what do I do? What do I do, mom? What do I do? So the fact that she's able to balance it all and share the same love throughout with all of us it really inspires me.
Beautiful. Thank you. And what's your favorite self-care ritual or practice?
Prayer and meditation, I would have to say, because I always talk about how we are, like I said with my mom, giving yourself to other people. You're constantly giving yourself away, whether it's as a mom, as a sister, as a friend, as a coworker, whatever. But when you're helping someone, or you're giving time to someone, or you're sharing parts of yourself. So meditation and prayer happens to be the thing that helps me to rejuvenate myself, because I am always giving away parts of myself, as you can imagine, because that's what I do. I do public speaking. I'm always giving parts away of myself, but I always have to refill myself. So as I'm giving parts of myself away, meaning sharing my insight, sharing my ideas, sharing, my purpose with other people so that I can help to elevate them. I have to constantly renew myself, and it's through meditation and prayer that I do that.
Tell us what's next for you. What's coming up on the horizons, your new projects, new book?
Well, I'm so excited. I'm thinking about doing a TV talk show. I did meet with a network, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with that. But I think that would be ideal for me, like to take it to a whole nother level where, publicly, where people can see me on a show visually. I mean, they see me when I go to places to do public speaking, but to have something on a network that comes on regularly, weekly, where people can get the insight, I think would be effective. So I'm thinking about that. And also, of course, I'm going to continue to do the webinars because I've been getting such a huge demand for that. And people can go to my website at www.georgiawoodbine.com, go to the info page, and I'll send you information about the webinar on how to write a book in 30 days or less, because I've been getting a huge response on that, people registering for that class because they really want to get their book done and they're really serious about doing that. And, like I have other tools and tips on my website. I do have, they sign up on my info page. If they sign up on the info contact page, I'll send them emails on different tips on how to meditate. I share different techniques. I also share tips on goal setting and time management and all the things that I've done to be able to live a happier and healthier lifestyle and be able to do what I love. I share all the things that I've learned over the years, and share it with other people so that they too can start to get on that path to self-awareness.
Brilliant. And you mentioned your website already, but just mention it again so we know that where we can find you, all your social medias and everything.
Sure. They can go to www.georgiawoodbine.com and go to the contact page, the contact info. And then once they go to the contact info page, they can put their email in there. And once they put their email in, I'll start to send them emails with tips and tools and secrets and strategies on personal and professional development and things that can help them get onto the path that they're really trying to get on, and figuring out how to do it. Because I think a lot of times it's not so much knowing what to do, but it's really about how to do it and how to go about it. And a lot of times, a lot of successful people, they'll tell you, oh, do this, do that, but then they don't give you the how-to guide. And that's what I do. I'm not afraid to share my information. I'm not afraid to share what I know, because I honestly believe that when you give what's given to you, it'll come back to you in overflow. You never have to worry about how it's going to come back. So I don't have a problem sharing different secrets or strategies or things or that I've learned to help me get onto this path with other people that are trying to get on the same path.
Perfect. Thank you. That's the interview and that's the conversation. So I just want to say thank you for joining this episode of her conversations. It's been an inspiring talk, and I'll want to find out a little bit more about doing this 30-day thing as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and continue to do what you do, and let's come together and continue to inspire others.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Georgia for joining me on another episode of Her Conversations, and thank you to you for listening wherever you are. You can discover more about me and the Her Project by visiting my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. I'm also on Facebook under the same name, and then Instagram and Twitter as Casmick, Cazmick. So thank you again, and until the next episode, take care. Bye.